Welcome to UC Today with me, David Dungay. We are back for another Microsoft Teams monthly update. Today, I'm joined by our resident Microsoft experts. Welcome, everyone. How are you all doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Well, let's go around the room very, very quickly then. Quick introductions. We have Mr. Kevin Kieller. We have Amanda. We've got Ryan, Satish, and of course, Tom Arbuthnot. And we have a new boy for today, Tom Halards. How are you doing?
Yeah, wonderful. It's delighted to be here.
Fantastic. So, Mr. Arbuthnot, should we dive straight into our topics for today? We've got lots to cover. At the top of the agenda, though, is the very latest financials from Microsoft. Some big numbers for the last quarter. What did you make of it? What were the highlights?
Yeah, I always like to look at it with a kind of M365 / kind of modern work hat on. And yeah, the numbers are crazy impressive. I mean, the overall revenue was 70.1 billion, which exceeded expectations. The Microsoft kind of cloud, which is the Azure M365 Dynamics type workloads, was 42.4 billion, and that was up 20% revenue wise. And then M365, they announced they've now got 430 million paid like commercial users. So that's Microsoft 365 / Office 365. And that's up both in seat count and in revenue as well. From a revenue perspective, the ARPU seems to be up based on E5 and Copilot, obviously, because the Copilot attach is quite a heavy uplift. And seat count wise, they said it was around frontline worker and SMB that have been increasing. So just massive increases in numbers across the board of already quite a massive and mature kind of service. So really impressive to see that up. We didn't get any specific Teams numbers or Teams phone numbers, and we didn't really get any specific Copilot numbers. We got kind of it's increased 3x and thousands of organizations are using it, but it was a bit vague on the Copilot front, and no new numbers on Teams Premium, Teams or Teams Phone.
Fantastic. So some big numbers, of course, but let's dive into the update for the month then. Unifi, the new contact center integration model for Teams. A huge story on UC Today. Actually, is one of our most read pieces in April. Tom, what's going on there that it's now certified, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is following off the back of the Teams Phone extensibility conversation we had last month. So Teams Phone extensibility is the new ability for contact centers, both Dynamics 365 and certified solutions, to integrate Teams via Azure Communication Services. And now Microsoft have announced that Unifi is going to be the name for that certification. So Teams Phone extensibility is the technology, and Unifi is the certification. So we know that 6 vendors got announced as being early on the kind of testing of the new Teams Phone extensibility ACS stuff. So now it'll be interesting to see which solutions get certified first for Unifi. We'll probably see the Dynamics 365 Contact Center kind of using it first because that's Microsoft's in-house solution. But there are already a number of contact centers using essentially the Teams Phone extensibility / ACS model. So now it's about them getting through that certification, and then they will be Connect, which is kind of basic SIP connectivity, Extend, which is using the Microsoft Graph and the kind of Teams APIs, and Unifi, which is kind of replacing what was called Power, which is full ACS integration to Microsoft Teams.
Let's move on to our next one then. We've got Teams phones and licenses checks for Extend contact centers, I guess kind of related as well. Tom?
This is interesting. It's an interesting one. It's related to that Teams Phone extensibility. So it's always been the case that if you ran a contact center on Teams, all the agents, all the people involved had to have Teams Phone license. That's the written requirement, but it was never enforced. So Microsoft are now saying they're going to enforce that requirement. So if you're running a Teams Phone Extend contact center, and you'll know if you are, then make sure all those agents are Teams Phone licensed, because Microsoft are going to put a block in play where any automated transfer, i.e. phone number comes into contact center, automatically transfers the agent. The person, I guess, can't use agent anymore, can we, because of AI? The person taking the calls has to have a Teams Phone license, so worth double checking if you have a Teams contact center.
Great. And then one that caught my eye, Tom, was Teams clients older than 90 days will be blocked. What's going on there, and how many people will this actually impact?
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. Microsoft are trying to get stricter on old clients running against the service. So obviously it's an evergreen service, and again, the written standards are you must keep your devices and endpoints up to date and your client software. But Microsoft haven't really aggressively enforced that. So what happens is overly zealous IT orgs will block updates because they don't want them to update automatically, and then users will end up on outdated Teams versions, or proxies or firewalls will accidentally block updates somehow. So it shouldn't affect that many people. But a message center message just went out. So if you got it on your tenant, it's worth checking your message center. Somewhere on your tenant, there are still out-of-date users running, or users running out-of-date clients, I should say. And Microsoft have given a script and some documentation to work out who those users are and get them updated. So check the message center, check for that. And if you need to, make sure those clients are updated, because soon they will be blocked from the service. And essentially they'll get a pop-up saying, hey, warning, you're about to be blocked, talk to your admin. And then eventually they'll just get a full screen, you can't sign in, talk to your admin. So it will impact the users if you don't keep them updated.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to be caught out by. So, okay, well, let's move on to rooms and devices. Then I'm going to move over to Ryan now, as our sort of rooms and devices expert in the room. Teams rooms on Windows, device management consolidation now is coming to Pro Portal. Ryan, take us through the announcements here.
Yeah, so I think long expected, and certainly lots of folks that have felt like they wanted more of a single pane of glass instead of having to bounce between the Teams Admin Center and the Pro Management Portal. And so I think welcome news that regardless of licensing, so it used to be that you could only use the Pro Portal if you had a Pro license. Now all licenses with Teams Room on Windows will have, and this is already in place. This rolled out May 1st, but that Pro Management Portal is available regardless of license type. There's still obviously different functionality and features based on the licensing that you have. But Pro Management Portal now becomes the core place that you manage, Teams Rooms and Teams Admin Center. Really starts to kind of go away at this point. So exciting and long anticipated move.
And of course, the latest app as well. Some new features there. Maybe you could take us through that.
Absolutely, yeah. So there is a new app update that's out, and kind of three core items that are released inside of this. One of them is live transcription. So this requires Pro license, but you can turn this on and off directly from the room. The other one that's kind of fun is translated captions. So if English is not your native language, you can support from the room real-time translated captions, and this could be either set from the device, or an IT admin could set up a default for this in the room, so that you get it by default on every meeting. And lastly, they made some changes to the gallery view in a Teams Room on Windows, and it arranges participants kind of more consistently. It's prioritizing video on the meeting stage. It's got some new layout options, and it has some changes both in single and dual display layouts.
Fantastic. So should we move on to Copilot? Lots to talk about on Copilot this month. The Wave 2, the spring release of new Copilot and Frontier experiences. Kevin, what is coming with Copilot? Take us through this.
Yeah, so I mean, it's great to see that Microsoft continues to evolve Copilot in its many different incarnations, and arguably sometimes a confusing number of incarnations. There was a lot, kind of that was announced. A lot of these features, as is typical of Microsoft, they roll out. And as you mentioned, there's this Frontier program that you can sign up for, but right now it's only available in the US tenants. So a lot of us here on the call can't really kick the tires with any of these. I'm based in Canada, so I can't, and Tom and a bunch are in the UK. So, but one of the things that I just wanted to comment on is, these features are coming to the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, which is a standalone app, as well as sometimes inside a team. So for instance, they're improving search. There's a new create experience, although there is already a create experience inside the M365 app. This seems to highlight the ability to create images using some of the OpenAI models that you can already do. So they're bringing that into the M365 app and potentially inside of Teams. There's Copilot notebooks, which are not to be confused with pages, another way to kind of organize output from Copilot into different places. The typical Microsoft approach to solving things, not one way, but multiple ways, and which can be confusing to end users. There's the new research and analyst agents that will be surfacing in the agent store that gives you that deep research capability that is available in OpenAI and some of the other LLM models. But once again, how that surfaces, whether you're in the Copilot in Teams, whether it's in the work version or the web version or the mobile version, all of these have slightly different flavors. But they are bringing, all of these capabilities, including things like memory, which, learns about you. And then, from your previous chat history, can understand your interests and other factors around you. I interestingly asked Copilot in Teams what it knew about me. And for whatever reason, it thought that I was a big cricket fan, and which I have had no queries on cricket. I don't understand the rules of cricket. I would like to, perhaps. So maybe this should be my new hobby.
That
And
feels like
Copilot
classic
is
hallucination.
suggesting
I
it.
don't know. I'll make something up.
Kevin, come over to the UK and come to a test match. I'll bring you to.
I would like that very much, Tom. So, and I think all of these features are fantastic. But one of the things that should be crystal clear, all of us have a hard time keeping up with the name changes and the different Copilot capabilities surfacing in the different Microsoft apps. You are not doing enough training for your end users. It doesn't matter how much your training you're doing. You need to do more if you expect kind of your end users to be able to leverage some of these new and exciting features that are coming to Copilot. So there's a quick but slightly long roundup. Other experts jump in here.
I would agree with you, Kevin. It's all about the training piece. Actually, the product's stellar, and they're updating it and changing it so fast that it's almost like Copilot is developing itself. Maybe, who knows? But like the reality is that the things you can do with it are phenomenal. But if you don't train people how to prompt, if you don't train people to do the things in the right way, to understand how to build the outputs that they want, then ultimately the bosses are paying all these dollars for the licenses, but they're not seeing that return. And the promise of like less work because like Copilot is making life easier for us, that's not going to happen unless you learn how to use it. So absolutely invest in the time yourself, but also I think ask the question of the company that you work for to say, hey, look, you paid for these tools. Where's the training that goes with? Because I think that's critical.
Yeah, I think that's I totally agree, and it's very clear in the news that Microsoft are releasing and in the Work Trend Index that I will talk about soon that they are on a completely different level in their journey. They are so far ahead than, at least in Sweden, we are really far behind, and just keeping adding new cool things that it don't magically make all of us front year firms, but it's Copilot building itself. I like that.
I definitely think it probably chooses who has jobs and who doesn't. Let's say that.
So you mentioned it there, Amanda. Maybe that's a good segue into our next topic then. The latest Microsoft Trends Index. I think it's the fifth annual sort of report that they've just released on workplace trends. A lot of different things to come out of that. Some big headline numbers as well. One that I know was disputed recently by another analyst group, that Microsoft has now sort of captured 46% of the UC&C market. What was your take of that report, and what were the big sort of standouts for you?
Yeah, so just first to set the scene, I really love the Work Trend Index, but I'm not sure if all of our watchers are doing that. So it's a yearly study that Microsoft does to see what is going on out in the workplace, and it's a combination of They talk to a lot of people. I think it's over 30,000 people. And they also look at signals in M365. So it's a combination of people and actual data. And looking back, the work trend index, it's a perfectly thing to look at what is trending at the moment. So there's been work trend index about hybrid work, working from home, and now it's of course all about AI. And the study this year is called "The Year the Frontier Firm is Born." And what does that mean? Well, a frontier firm is a firm that actually leverages AI, and they have a lot of agents. So the human agent ratio is something that they talk a lot about in the study this year. And they also talk about intelligence on tap, that we can see that we lack workforce to do the things that we need to have done. And there won't be more people, so we need to use agents more. And one way of seeing it is that, well, I guess that almost any kind of process could have an agent doing it. And going back to what I said before about the news for Copilot is that now a lot of people they're using Copilot for my personal need, the things I do during the day, but agents is like the next evolving step on how we can use AI with the help with business processes and actually will developing our businesses. So there are so many different numbers, and I'm going to see if I can say a few of my favorite ones. Well, this is actually caught my eye, and they can see that on based on the signals in M365, we are interrupted every second minute during our workday. Can you imagine being interrupted that often? There'll be no time to work. And
A lot of that is Teams' fault, to be honest.
yeah, of course. I mean, it is. It is. We get constantly playing, and that is not with agents. I just love that number. Not love it. It's very very sad. But what they see is that 82% of leaders think that they will use digital labor, aka agents, during the next 12 to 18 months. And we can also see that 82% of leaders think that they will have to rethink how they do work, both in aspects of operations and strategy, to really combine agents and humans. They talk about this new role of being an agent boss. It's not a matter of just doing your job and thinking how to automate. You should be a manager of bosses of different agents that do different things. And yeah, it feels very futuristic, and I would love to see how we continue working with agents, because Microsoft are far ahead in their visions. Have anyone else read the report? Do you like it?
Yeah, so Amanda, that was a great summary. I wanted to give a shout out to Alexia Cambon, who's the head of research for Copilot and the future of work at Microsoft. She did a digital briefing, I think last week, where she ran through the report and was phenomenal. And she answered, some additional questions. And there was a couple of comments she made that I thought were really standout. She, asked the question, do we need an intelligence resource department like we have a human resource department in the future to manage all these agents as we become agent bosses, which I thought was interesting to contemplate. And then one other statistic that I don't believe is included in the report, but she said that in their surveys, 46% of people treat agents as though they're an assistant, so like a colleague, whereas today 52% of people treat Copilot and agents as if they're a tool. So you ask them a question and you get an answer. And, what she was saying is more of us, kind of as we learn, the hypothesis is more of us will need to learn how to treat them as effectively a digital colleague. And so that is some of the evolution that, as you mentioned, Amanda, organizations have as they move to all of us becoming agent bosses, which I think is a fascinating concept.
I think, Kevin, to that point, it's just interesting that like an agent is effectively an AI with a persona, right, and a role, and it works within a sandbox. So it can then do that job. I'm air bunny, that job that the boss needs to do. But ultimately, that still needs to be defined to make it successful. And then the way that we currently, I suppose, work with Copilot is it's much more that prompt, question, answer, response. Kind of thing. But then once you start prompting a bit more and you start giving, you give Copilot that persona, you say, right, well, today I want you to help me create a marketing project. You give the persona to the generative AI in Copilot, and then it suddenly becomes an agent and it acts in that way. And that's kind of what's shifting. These virtual agents are being created around these personas for different jobs. I do think, though, you make a really, really interesting point about actually maintaining and controlling and understanding what we put in place and how long it's going to be there. Because in theory, you could make loads of agents and they could run forever. So actually kind of not policing that, but actually running that and looking after that is a very real output of what could be a job of the future.
I think agent is such a broad and ill-defined term as well. It's really tough because in some contexts it's like using deep research, or researcher is Microsoft's name for it, where an individual is doing a more advanced prompt and the AI is going and doing multiple actions and reasoning and research. And other agents are fully autonomous and there's no human in the loop and everything in between. And it's kind of all getting mashed up into agent, and you as an individual will have lots of agents working for you. I'm not sure I like the terminology of kind of humanizing it and talking them as virtual employees and stuff. I think we should think about it as technology. I like the idea that people need to be training up to leverage AI in their role as much as they can. That makes a lot of sense. I think this kind of report is aimed more at kind of business decision makers. So I guess they take a slightly different tone in how they talk about it and staffing and training and stuff. But
I always think of Agent Smith anyway, Tom, from the Matrix. That's always my problem when everyone says it's an agent in Copilot.
Yeah, but it will be very interesting times, and continuing Microsoft's journey of having an agent everywhere. Every process should have an agent.
So all the future Microsoft conferences will have agents that will help us with the agenda and what's going on, right? Because that's the P1.
So should we move on to a few roadmap items then? There's a little bit to get through here. So we've got remote logging collection in Teams Admin Center. This is for diagnostics logs. Satish, take us through that.
So in terms of this feature that's coming in, it would allow the admins to collect their logs from the end user. So whenever we request a support from Microsoft for any kind of a support request, we need to reach back to the end users to collect those logs. So this feature would enable the admins to collect the logs proactively in advance and then add it to the service request. So that helps the overall SLA from the service request perspective as such.
Right. And then we've got silent test calls as well. Satish, what's going on there?
Now, the silent test call feature, which Microsoft is coming up, is much more different than what's available from the third-party apps that is available right now. So Microsoft is working in such a way that you don't need to install any third-party app, or you don't need to have an agent installed on the end user's machine to test the silent calls. It would make the calls through the app seamlessly in the backend. Collect all the network kind of an information and report back. So in case if you are rolling out Microsoft Teams in first place, or you are testing your network ongoing basis, this feature would definitely help us out.
And then I'm going to stick with you, Satish, for one last one. Sensitive content. I think we've all been there on sensitive content, but it's now a new detection feature. Is that right?
So the new detection feature in terms of the sensitive content is in case if you're sharing your desktop. So, and if there is any sensitive content that is getting shared, it would give that alert to the organizer and the presenter of that meeting that sensitive content is being shared into the meeting. Do you want to really share it into the meeting or not? So all those kind of an alert is what Microsoft would be giving it through the M365 Copilot as an add-on feature as such.
Great. Then let's go to Ryan next. We've got face recognition in Teams rooms on Windows. Ryan, what's going on there?
Yeah, so face recognition in Teams Room on Windows with Cloud IntelliFrame is coming. And so if face recognition is enabled at an organizational level in terms of policy, and if you've enrolled your face through the Teams client, then you will appear in the meeting roster. And that the room is IntelliFrame is going to recognize you. You'll be in the roster, and they're going to try to optimize the experience based on this. And so, yeah, this is also a pro license feature. So just to keep in mind, if you see a theme here, there's not a lot that you can do without pro license. And so almost every time we talk about a new feature, we're going to be mentioning that this is restricted to pro license, which is essentially what everybody has at this stage. But this obviously complements the voice kind of speaker attribution, and is another vector, and just helpful overall in this kind of intelligent camera, multi-camera, virtually directed kind of world that we're heading in on the room side.
Great. And then we have MTR on Android. We've got a few things here to go through. Tom, do you want to take us through these updates?
Tom H.
Yeah, Tom H.
That's cool. No, thank you. Cheers, David. So yeah, these are three, I think, really big things for Android. And what I love is that Android's getting a bit more parity with some of the Windows. So Windows is great, but actually when you think about the actual devices that are out in the wild and how many there are that are on Android, people have been crying out for a lot of these things. So first up, local PTZ camera control. Again, people like to be able to have the ability to control their own precise pan, tilt, zoom features in a meeting. You'll be able to do that from May, so that's great. All these are pro features, just to emphasize that, exactly what Ryan said. And then we've got speaker recognition and attribution. This is a massive level up for the Android devices that are out there, because it means that they can then use the Copilot features that everyone's been like, oh, it's amazing, you can do all this cool stuff. Well, actually, you've not been able to do a lot of those features with the Android side of the house, with the room licenses, because they just, although the equipment was potentially able to do it, the software wasn't enabled for it. So the fact that that's now gone like across the whole ecosystem is going to be a real game changer for everybody in every room. So that's going to be a great level set. And then we were talking about agents. Well, the first time you might meet an agent might be in a room with Facilitator. And Facilitator is literally that. He or she is an agent that will help you prep and manage your meetings, do the pre-prep, do the post actions and all of that kind of good stuff. They'll join the call, they'll be listening in the call, and then because that's now on Android, that's going to open up those other 85% of rooms that are out there to have that lovely Facilitator service. So yeah, all big things for rooms, Teams rooms on Android.
Fantastic. Lots of things on the roadmap to come. So before we leave, should we go through a few of the big events coming up? I'll throw it back to Tom Arbuthnot. Tom, what is on the calendar?
Yeah, we've got some good stuff coming up. So we've got Microsoft Build, which is more the developer-focused conference. So that's May 19th through 22nd, both in person and online. So it's mainly developer-y, but there'll be lots of AI conversation, and often we see those things filter through to product as well. So that's worth keeping an eye on. There's European Collab Summit, which is the 26th to 28th of May. That's always a good event. I think Amanda has got a session there.
Yes, I will do a very interesting session about how to be your own designer with Microsoft Clipchamp and Microsoft Designer. So it's not a lot of teams, but it's still in the Microsoft ecosystem. And I hope it will be fun. It will be the first time I'm doing it. I'm also doing a workshop together with Carolina about how you can use Champion Network to drive successful change. So that is definitely something that could be relevant for your co-piloting, as we talked about previous this call.
And then we have the Converged Comms training for partners. So this is partner only, Microsoft partner only, but it's the Converged Comms Bootcamp, and that is from the 13th of May, online and in person. And looking a bit further out, we have Commsverse as well in the UK, and that's a big community Teams-focused conference. Also a bit of Copilot getting in there now these days. So really looking forward to that as well. And that is 18th and 19th of June.
So I'd like to say thank you so much to my guests for joining me today and sharing the latest updates from Microsoft Teams. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all at the next one. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. That's it from me. See you next time.